Hey everyone. So today we're going to be going over grammar again from Bluebook Test 1. Instead of the boundaries questions, we're going to be doing what they call form and sense. And that's basically everything that is in transition, so it's pretty broad. So we're going to go through the 5 tips again, same as before, right? Read the full passage and all answer choices. The order in which you do it doesn't matter that much. I often recommend you try sometimes reading first the passage, sometimes the answer choices, and then see which one you feel better with. Then we're going to have find out what the question is testing, right? So see, based on answer choices usually, is it testing tense? Is it testing number, right? So is it going to be an are versus an is? Is it testing boundaries? Is it testing commas versus semicolons? Whatever it's testing, you want to focus on that. This goes with that, right? Focus on the difference between answer choices. Are there different tenses? Are there different values of, is it plural versus singular? Is it he versus she versus it? They don't really do that much anymore, but still pay attention to punctuation in answer choices, right? Notice those were the sentence pivots and where you wanna, focus on how the sentence transforms. And then last, pay attention to nouns and verbs, right? So this is about knowing if the nouns and the verbs are going together and which verb goes with which noun and so on. So we're going to try this with the questions, and then we will do more practice exercises, right? So this is question 16 on reading and writing module 1 from practice test 1. In 1930, Japanese-American artist Chura Obata depicted the natural beauty of Yosemite National Park in 2 memorable woodcuts, Evening at Carlin and Lake Basin in the High Sierra. In 2019, Blank exhibited alongside 150 other of Obata's other works in a single artist show at the Smithsonian American Art Museum. Okay, so what are our options here, right? We're going to have it was, they were, this was, some were. So the question is first, is it plural or singular? And then it's going to be they or some or it versus this. So in 2019, blank alongside other works. So that means this is some sort of work. Okay, and it's 2 memorable woodcuts, right? 2 memorable woodcuts. Other works, right? So that means it's plural. So it's going to be some were, no, because we know exactly which ones they're talking about here. They're talking about they. The evening at Carl Inn, Lake Basin in High Sierra, and the other. So those two go together and it's they were, right? It wasn't it was because it's plural, not singular. Same with C, and then some doesn't work because we know it, right? That we know which ones they're talking about. Great. So that is for this one. And then we'll go on to the next one. 18 in 1966, Emmett Ashford became the first African American to umpire a Major League Baseball game. His energetic gestures announcing when a player had struck out in his habit of barreling after a hit ball to see if it would land out of blank transformed the traditionally solemn umpire role into a dynamic one. Okay, so then, and now let's look at the answer choices, right? Bounds helped, bounds helping, bounds that helped, and bounds to help. So bounds is going to happen. And then, so the second sentence is energetic gestures when a player had struck out in his habit of barreling after a hit ball to see if it would land out of bounds. Okay, so that is all one sort of subject, right? Is energetic gestures. What did they do? They didn't do the to see, right? They had to do something. That's not the actual verb. The verb is the help. So you don't want to separate the subject and the verb by just 1 comma. You can do it with 2 commas when you have a parenthetical phrase. So you're not going to have a comma. And then that helped makes them not be connected the right way. It's not a subject verb, it's something else. And again, bounds to help, again, that's not a proper verb, right? So you need bounds helped, and it's going to be A. Okay, great. We're flowing here. We're in the flow state. So that was question 18 on reading and writing 1 in Bluebook Test 1. The violins, handmade in the 17th century by Italian craftsman Antonio Stradivari, have been celebrated as some of the finest in the world. In close collaboration with musicians, Stradivari introduced changes to the shape of a traditional violin, flattening some of the instrument's curves and making lighter overall. Okay. So let's see here, right? Those, one, them, it. So again, it's about number. Now, is it going to be plural or singular to start, right? So making what lighter overall, right? Sorry, helped introduce changes to the shape of a traditional violin, flattening some of the instrument's curves and making blanks. So the trick here, right, is this word. This is where they trick you because they have this word curves, which is a noun. And you can think, oh, they're talking about making the curves lighter, but it's not about curves being lighter. I don't even know really what that would mean. It's about making the violin lighter, right? So it's going to be the violin is lighter. So then if the violin is lighter, we go with singular. And it's not one lighter, it's about it, right? It is lighter, the violin. It's not a general what. Okay, so it's going to be D for that one. And now we'll go on to the next one. This is 17. So this is module 2A, right? And it's going to be question 17, module 2A, supposedly the easier module 2, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. So public awareness campaigns about the need to reduce single-use plastics can be successful, says researcher Kim Borg of Monash University in Australia. When these campaigns give consumers a choice. For example, Japan achieved a 40% reduction in plastic bag use after cashiers were instructed to ask customers whether blank wanted a bag. So, or whether who wanted a bag, right? So they, one, you, it. Okay, it's very similar to the last one. And who wants the bag, right? It is customers, which is plural. And the only one that's plural is they, right? So it's not going to be B, C, and D, right? By looking at the answer choices, even before you really think about the sentence, you can see what they're testing, right? So I'm going to try on the next one to look at the answer choices and see how that helps me, right? So this one here, right? Provided, having provided, to provide, providing. So they're testing a verb tense or form, right? So a member of the Cherokee, and this is question 18, module 2A, Bluebook Test 1. A member of the Cherokee Nation, Mary Golda Ross, is renowned for her contributions to the NASA's Planetary Flight Handbook, which blank detailed mathematical guidance for missions to Mars and Venus. Okay. Which, what did it do? Which to provide would no, or providing no, right? It's singular and it would be which provided, right? Because that's in the past tense. I did this in the past. So we're going to go with A. It's not any of the other ones. Great. And now we'll go to the next question, which is question 20. Okay, so before we look at the answer or the reading, well, let's look at the answer choices. There, they are, it is, right? It's there. They're possessive. Okay, so this is testing possibly whether it's possessive or not. And then if it is possessive or not, what the number is, right? Is it singular or plural? And this is question 20. British scientists James Watson and Francis Crick won the Nobel Prize in part for their 1953 paper announcing the double helix structure of DNA. But it is misleading to say that Watson and Crick discovered the double helix. Findings were based on a famous X-ray image of DNA fibers, photo 51, developed by X-ray crystallographer Rosalind Franklin and her graduate student Raymond Gosling. Okay, personally, I love Rosalind Franklin. She always comes up X-ray crystallography is super cool. You can look at images from it, and yeah, she totally deserves credit. But, Watson and Crick are also cool. But, okay, so before I get too distracted, let's keep going, right? So blank findings were, so whose findings, right? They're talking about Watson and Crick's findings. Okay, and the fact that I said whose findings, right? The whose I just did was A-W. I did this whose, right? Which is plural, or which is possessive. So we're looking for possessive things. So it's not going to be they are. It's a key, right, to know whether it's possessive or not is possessive pronouns never have apostrophes. Okay, and then is it singular or plural? It is plural because there's two people, so it is there. Okay, great. We are just cruising along. And let's go to question 21. Let's look at the answer choices. Creates, create, creating, created. So again, it's about verb tense, right? And let's see. In order to prevent non-native fish species from moving freely between the Mediterranean and Red Seas, marine biologist Bella Galil has proposed that a saline lock system be installed along the Suez Canal in Egypt's Great Bitter Lakes. The lock would increase the salinity of the lakes and blank, a natural barrier of water most marine creatures would be unable to cross. Okay. So then here we're looking at, let's look, creates versus create is about number, right? And the lock would increase the salinity of the lakes. And so is it plural or singular? It's not the lakes and doing something, right? It's the lock. Okay. So then also you have to think about it's not just the lock creates or created, right? So it's the lock would. So how would you say? Would you say would creates, would creating? You would say would create. So it would be B. Okay, now let's go to the next question, 23 from Module 2a of Bluebook Test 1. The classic children's board game Chutes and Ladders is a version of an ancient Nepalese game. I did not know that. Paramapada, Swapanapata. In both games, we should really call it that, actually. In both games, players encounter good or bad spaces while traveling along a path. Landing on one of the good spaces. Blank a player to skip ahead and arrive closer to the end goal. Okay. So then on this one, right? Let's see. Then it's about the verb again, right? Allows, are allowing, have allowed, allow. So let's look at this part. Landing on one of the good spaces. So land can be a verb, but landing is a gerund on one of the good spaces. This is sort of like the subject, right? It's a thing that's doing something. A player to skip ahead and arrive closer. So what does it do, right? Are allowing? No, it's one thing, so it's not going to be plural. It's not in the past tense, so it's not going to be have allowed. And allow is if you're doing multiple things, but it's one thing, so it's allows. Landing on one of the good spaces allows. Okay. And let's see this one. So this is module 2b, right? Supposedly the harder one, but you'll see that it's not too big a difference usually for this. And many of her landscape paintings from the 1970s and 1980s, Lebanese American artist Edel Adnan worked to capture the essence of California's fog-shrouded Mount Tamalpais region through abstraction, using splotches of color to represent the area's features. Interestingly, the triangle representing the mountain itself blank among the few defined figures in her painting. So if you look right, are, have been, were is. So three of these are plural and one of them is singular itself. I mean, were could be you were, right? But you wouldn't say it were, he were. So itself. So is it singular, right? It's the triangle representing. So it is singular and it is. Okay, now let's go to 21. Researchers studying the Terracotta Army, the thousands of life-size statues of warriors found interred near the tomb of Emperor Qin Shi Huang of China were shocked to realize that the shape of each statue's ears, like the shape of each person's ears, blank, unique, right? Okay, this one is one that my students miss maybe the most on any grammar question on this Blue Book Test 1. So what is unique, right? So we have are, is, were, have been. It's about tense and a number. And first, right, you're like, okay, ears here, right? But then you see the comma and you're like, oh, this is a parenthetical phrase. It's not about this ears. And then you go up and you say, oh, but it's ears still. So it's going to be are or were. But it's not talking about the statue's ears. It's talking about the shape of each statue's ears. So then that means it has to be singular, and the only one that's singular is B. The shape of each statue's ears is unique, right? And you can just not think about this part. Okay, so this one's a tricky one because there's sort of like two layers of tricks going on. And most people I have catch the first trick, but then think they've only caught one trick and then they stop there, right? So then that is the last question from these types in this Blue Book Test 1. I'll be doing more questions from Blue Book Test 1, verbal and math, and other tests soon. I've already done the other grammar questions last week, so you can look at that video. And there's a bunch of math questions as well that I've been going over. If you have questions on anything on this, let me know. If you have other things you want me to go over, I'm happy to do that. I've done that for some people. It's always free, always just looking for how to help people out on this stuff. And if you could like and subscribe this, that would be great. You'll keep updated on the content and yeah, I can keep helping you out. So I'll talk to you all soon and have a good rest of your day. Bye.